From the world-famous Blackbird Studios, it's the Rave X podcast. And now, Rave X.
Yes, I am, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Rave X. My producer, T-Money, always does a great job. So, we're going to have a little bit of story time with Uncle Rave today, and we're going to talk about the time me and a couple of friends decided to go camping up in the Granite State. That's right, episode 29, Granite State Nightmare. Let's dive in. So a few years back, man, when I was in my 20s, me and a couple of friends decided we should do something over the long weekend. And there's not a lot to do in the city, you know, hang out, go to a pool, have a cookout, whatever. We wanted to do something different. So we decided we should hop in the car, pack up the tent, you know what I mean, and go up to New Hampshire. The great state of New Hampshire. Live free or die, and we almost did. Now, I had never really gone camping before. The closest thing to camping is one time I saw the movie Deliverance. But I mean, you know, I figured we could deal with that as long as I get to play the Burt Reynolds character, because that Ned Beatty hog boy shit as a cisgender male, that doesn't fly with me. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, you know, if anyone's going to squeal like a pig, it's my other... You guys get it, right? So we pack up the car. We drive up to New Hampshire, and we find a little camping spot area, man, where they have, like, areas for you to camp. And we're up there, and we decided before we went up that we should bring, All right, guys, can you guys keep a secret? We brought a bunch of marijuana with us, okay? Not a bunch, but like $100, right? Like, we all put in, like, $34 or something and got a good amount of marijuana that we were going to smoke while we were camping. And so we set up the campsite, man, and we got a fire going, and we're cooking hot dogs and stuff, and we rolled up a joint, and we're smoking. And then before the sun went down, we decided, let's do some hiking. Let's go out someplace, and then we'll hike back before the sun goes down. And we found this really cool area, man, with, like, mountains and a stream. Like, you know, being from the city, I never really seen no shit like that. Like, to me, that was white folk shit, right? Waterfalls and, you know... So we roll up another joint, we're smoking by the water, you know what I mean? And we're skipping across the stream there, rock to rock, having a great time, you know? And we start hiking back, and we're eating, and we're pounding beers, and it was really fun, you know? And we got like 3 days of this shit to do. And we're just enjoying ourselves, man, out in the woods of New Hampshire and stuff, you know, not a care in the world. And this was back before everyone had a cell phone, right? So there was no cell phones going off or anything, and we're just having a great time. And we go to sleep. In the morning, we wake up and we decide, let's go to another campsite, man. We don't have to spend 3 days at one campsite. We pack up the stuff. We start hiking through the woods, man. We're kind of getting uphill, and we stop. We pound a couple of beers. We roll another joint, you know what I mean? And we're walking through the woods and stuff. And, you know, we find a camp area, and we realize we're running low on supplies, right? We're running low on beer. We need hot dogs and hamburgers and buns, and we need a little grill thing that you can buy, disposable little thing. So we hop in the car and we drive to the local Walmart. And, you know, when I grew up in the city, BB guns were really fun. Like, every once in a while, someone knew someone who could get a BB gun. And I just thought they were fun, you know what I mean? So we're at Walmart, and we get the beer, and we get some cigarettes, and we get some hot dogs and the grill and stuff. And I noticed they had, like, BB guns there, like rifles and handguns. And they were cheap, dude. Like, a handgun BB gun, it's like $25, and the rifle was like $30 or whatever. So I buy a couple of BB gun rifles thinking, well, after you drink the beer, you set up the empty cans, and you can, bing, you know, shoot them off the ridge there. So everything's going good, man. We're enjoying nature, you know what I mean? And we set up our tent. Everything goes well. Took us a while to set up the tent because we're city folk. And eventually we get it all set up. And it kind of rained later that night, and we didn't realize the tent had a hole in it, so there's water pooling in the middle of the tent. So the second the sun came up, man, about, 7 o'clock, we pack up, and we decide we're just going to do some hiking. You know, we're going to leave the car, we'll hike in a big circle and come back to the car. And, we did that, and we get in the car and we drive more into New Hampshire. You know, we're trying to get as much into this 3-day weekend as we can before we have to go back to the city and our stupid jobs, right? And we get to another part of New Hampshire, not too far from the state line. And we park the car up on a hill, and we walk down back into the woods. And again, we're like, all right, we don't want to smoke too much pot, because the plan was, when we get back home, we're going to divvy up this bag of weed, you know what I mean? And whatever we have left over, we get to keep. So we're about maybe, 150 feet from the actual highway, but we're kind of deep in the woods, right? Maybe 200 feet from the highway. And we can still kind of see cars going by, but we're so deep in the woods, and the woods are so thick that, we're like, whatever, and we're shooting the BB guns, we're shooting the beer cans off the branches and stuff and having a good time. And at one point, I have the BB gun rifle in my hand, which I still have to this day. And I'm cocking the gun, and we're shooting the cans. And I look up, and I see a woman, and she's real close to the road. She's in her car, and she's real close to the edge of the road where the woods start, right? And she's driving past real slow, like she's watching us, and she's on her phone. And I look up at her, and my two buddies look up at her, and I'm like, all right, I got a bad feeling about this. Let's pack up, guys. So we clean up all the trash. We're not trying to litter through the woods and stuff. We pack up all the trash. We pack up the BB guns. We start walking sort of back up the hill. We get in the car, and we drive off, right? We get about, I kid you not, we get about 50 feet before behind us I hear, woo, whoop, woo. It's the New Hampshire State Police. Guys, I kid you not. This is why this episode's called Granite State Nightmare. And we're like, damn, we ain't even do nothing really. And then I remember, I have a bunch of marijuana on me. And we have BB guns. And we've been drinking. So, I don't know what the laws are in this state. They say live free or die. We were trying to live free. We might die, though. I don't know. Cop gets out, man. And let me tell you, this dude could have been Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double. Except he kind of had blonde hair. Real Aryan Nation looking motherfucker, right? And he walks over to the car, and he already has his, revolver 44 Magnum Python. It looked like the gun that Rick Grimes has from The Walking Dead. You know that gun, that big old Python revolver he carries from The Walking Dead? You can't protect her, Rick. You can't protect her. Yeah, it looked like that. He walks over to the car. We just, put our hands out the window like we're cool. He pulls each of us out of the car. He goes searching through the car, and he's like, y'all got any weapons? And I'm like, no. And I go, wait, we stopped off at Walmart a few miles back, man, and we grabbed a couple of BB guns. They're just BB guns. They're in a trunk. I actually have the receipt in my wallet, and he pops open the trunk, and he pulls out the BB guns. Now, he's looking at these BB guns like they're AR-15 assault rifles. They're just single-shot, pump-action BB guns, and he's like, oh, look at that. Oh, this one's got a scope. Oh, look at the barrel on this one. Like, he's really trying to play it up. Now, I'm piecing together what happened was, the woman drove past. She saw us holding up the rifle. Now, again, we're like 200 feet into the woods. So to her, I'm sure it looked like a real gun. And she was just kind of doing her job, right? Like there are kids, well, early 20-something kids out in the woods. They're shooting guns and they're drinking beer. And I think the black one was smoking marijuana cigarettes. Reefers. And she probably called the state police. And that's what we're now in the midst of, right? So he handcuffs us all, and we're sitting on the side of the highway, dude, cuffed behind our back. I don't know why I just did the motion as I'm podcasting, my hands behind my back, right? And we're sitting there, and cars are zipping past us, kicking up dirt in our face, and I'm looking at my buddy Jason, and Jason is looking at Ryan, and Ryan's looking at me, and we're just like, this went from super cool to an all-out suck fest in 0 to 60. We were having so much fun. Now, I was afraid the whole deliverance thing was going to happen, right? And instead, we get, Super Trooper Schwarzenegger here with his bull python looking to shoot someone in their mouth. I'm just saying, 2 white guys, a black dude, I'm probably taking the lead. I'm just saying. He goes through the car, he pulls out the rifles, he puts them on the hood. He's like, yeah, weapons. And I'm like, bro, they're BB guns. And I said, go through my wallet, you'll find the receipt. He goes through my wallet, he pulls out the receipt, and he goes, you're lucky you got the receipt. These could have been stolen. Like, bro, we're not going to steal $25 BB guns, you know what I mean? And then he starts going through the car, he finds my bag, and he starts going through my bag. And I know that there's about $90 left worth of marijuana in there. And he goes through the bag, and he pulls out my tobacco, and he pulls out, my house keys. And then he pulls out the bag of marijuana, dude. And it was a decent-sized bag. And he opens it up, and he's looking through it. And he's like, who's the owner of this? Who does this belong to? And no one said anything. And then I realized my passport's in my bag anyway. So I took the fall from my buddies. Even though it was all of ours, and we all put in money for it, I just raised my hand and said, it's mine. And then, of course, he pulls out my passport and holds it next to my face, and he goes, yes, it is. And he starts going through my bag of tobacco where I had little roaches, right, like little half joints and stuff we were going to save, And he's going through my bag. He confiscates the marijuana, obviously. He puts the BB guns in the trunk of his police car. And I noticed that as he's going through my bag of tobacco, he's pulling out little bits of joints, like a little 1-inch roach, little half an inch joint here and there. And he pulls it all out, puts it in another baggie, but then he takes a half-inch joint, puts it back in my bag, rolls the bag up, puts it back in my sort of backpack there, puts it all back in the car. Then he walks over to me with his 44 bull python in his hand, pointed down. He never pointed it at us. He stands me up, and he says my name, Raven Montgomery Xavier. You're under arrest for the possession of marijuana. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know, but it's probably a misdemeanor or whatever. He calls for backup. His backup pulls up. They've got their guns drawn, 2 cops in 1 car. And, they tend to my buddies and stuff, and they stand them up and say, you guys are kind of free to go, but you shouldn't be shooting BB guns out in the woods. And I remember my buddy says, we just thought we were out in the woods, man. We weren't trying to be on private property. And he goes, well, is this your land? And my buddy said, no. And he goes, well, then it ain't public property. It belongs to the great state of New Hampshire. Don't let me catch you doing this stuff again. My buddy's like, yeah, okay. And he puts me in the passenger seat of his car. He's got me cuffed in front, and he says, hey, look, man, this isn't that big of a deal. We're going to take you down to the station. We're going to print you. We're going to take your picture. Of course, we're confiscating the marijuana. And then your buddies can bail you out. Bail is, and this was the funny part. He looks at his friend, well, his other partner, his other cop, and he goes, bail is, and they kind of like just came up with a number, like, I don't know, like $250? And he's like, yeah, that sounds about right. So I look at my friends and I said, all right, look, guys, just here's my debit card. Let's all split this 3 ways. You know what I mean? Like, it's all of our deals here. We're all in this together. Let's split it 3 ways. Come bail me out in about an hour. And the cop said, look, you can follow behind us and wait in the parking lot. It's not a big deal. And they were pretty nice to us, man, to be honest with you. Like, once they found out that the guns were BB guns and all we had was weed, everything was kind of cool. And we're driving back to the station. I'm with the big jacked up Arnold Schwarzenegger cop. And he's like, so where you guys from? And we're telling him and stuff. And he's pretty cool, like I said. And I said to him, when you walked up on us with that 44 Python, I thought you were about to do some damage. And he laughed and he goes, I wouldn't do that. And I realized he's slightly effeminate. He's got a little bit of a lisp to him. And he was just being hard because, like I said, he thought we had guns, We get to the station, we're talking and stuff like that. He prints me, very gentle, man. He didn't even rough me up or anything. Prints me, takes my picture, yada, yada, yada. And, he says, look, you're going to have to come back here for court. But if you never do this again, you should be all set. And after you pay your fine and you go to court, it will be like it never happened. But, not a good idea, not very bright. And I said, you got it, man. So my buddies come back. They pay the fine. Everything's cool. And, boy, we just drove back home like broken men. You know what I mean? And we're in the car, and I remembered. For some reason, this cop, he left me half a joint in my bag of tobacco, man. Like maybe he was a marijuana enthusiast. I don't know. And I said, bro, I got half a joint. And we all decided, let's wait till we get out of New Hampshire. And then we'll spark that up when we get closer to home, So I get home, and a couple of weeks go by. I have to show up to court. My buddy Sal, who's a great guy, he drove me all the way back to New Hampshire. We go in there in court, and we're sitting there, and there's like a bunch of tweakers and meth heads and stuff. It was crazy, right? And we go in there, we get in there, and I stand before the judge, who is a super pretty blonde woman, like 45, 46. I was in my 20s at the time. And she looks at me, and she asked me if all of these things were true. I said, yes, ma'am. And she says, Mr. Xavier, do you plan on coming back to our great state, shooting BB guns, drinking beer, and smoking marijuana? And I looked up at her and I said, not in this lifetime. And she gave me a little smile and she goes, okay, you paid your fine. You're free to go. And she hit the gavel. And me and my buddy turned around. We hopped in a car and we got the F out of Dodge, dude, and came all the way back home. And that was the very last time that I had set foot in the great state of New Hampshire. Wow. What a story, guys. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. I got shit to do. I was an amazing host. You were an excellent crowd. My name's Rave, and do me a favor, kids. Remember this. If it bleeds, we can kill it. My name's Rave, and I'm out of here.
That was the Rave Podcast. Be sure to click like and subscribe. For podcasts, new music, and all things Rave, go to youtube.com and search Rave Music.